Welcome to the newest episode of Relationships Today. I am your host, Kevin Kishor, author of Chocolate Covered Frenchfries. And I have the book here today for those who are seeing it on Instagram, YouTube, and so on. My publicist told me to show everyone, and I am remembering to do that. Sorry if the lighting is not great, but for anybody who's listening, you can find the links in the bio, depending on what platform you're on. And all the options are there. You can get it on Amazon, ebooks. Still working on the Audible version, so I'll get back to you about that for sure. As you know, the podcast is called Relationships Today, and I'm excited all the time to have people actually agree to do this podcast with me. And today I have someone I consider very close to, like almost like family to me. Most of us call her Dia. She has a couple different names that she kind of goes by, I see. So you want to tell us who you are a little bit there, my lady?
I am Lady Dia, aka Dia Melodia, aka Dia Melodidi, or Melodidi, or Melodia. I will just stop there.
Okay, Lady Dia. And for people who don't know, I have a background in music and a passion, and I do entertainment stuff in where I am, especially. That's on another side. And Dia, Lady Dia, was one of the first people that inspired me here in this town. I always said she has a great future, and now she's doing, on the music side of things, she's doing some stuff with her man and other parts of the circle, trying to make a difference in the culture and all that, especially for Black people locally. So thank you for sharing your gift, Lady Dia.
Thanks, Kevin Kishor.
So Ed, you are also a mother, a new sort of new mother, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've been serving for 2 years now, almost 2.5, and I'm enjoying it. It gets more fun as the years go by, and yeah, being a mother really grounded me in a very realistic way. I think I was kind of a lot in theory, and having a baby just brought me right to earth and be like, what is feasible? So
yeah, that would and so it's changed everything, right? Because you and Trophy, who is your other half. I was gonna say better half, but
it depends on what part we're talking about.
Yeah, so have you guys talked about that at all? Like the drastic change? I imagine it's been, and I know as a dad, before kids and after kids is usually super different.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, wow, you have 6, 7?
Yeah, 6. Don't add more.
I'm always because I want a lot of children, and I see how many children you have, and I'm like, wow. So I feel like you've accomplished so much. That's a blessing.
Mm-hmm. Well, their mom did most of the work, to be honest. No, I'm just kidding.
You know what though? The dad's role is special. I see you with your children, and it's beautiful. I see you really actually engaged and involved, and it's nice to see, especially being a parent now. And then you're still continuing your dreams, and you know what I mean? So it's cool. Yeah,
thank you. Cool. I appreciate that. I've always tried to be involved, and engaged as a dad. Even though I didn't expect to be a dad, I would have never thought, and I was a young dad. So it was very interesting. So
How was it being a young dad? How old were you?
Well, I had all my kids. We had all of my kids when I was in my 20s.
In your 20s.
By the time, before I was 30. So
That's
it was
me
different.
right now. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's me right now. So I'm like, dang. Because I'm always like, I can't imagine adding another one right now. But
How old is it's Glory is your baby's name, right?
yeah, Glory is turned like he's 2. He's gonna be 2.5 in a couple months or something like
Oh,
that. So
so you're good.
yeah.
You're good to go for the next one soon.
You know what? You know what? When we just leave it up to the Most High. So we'll see. Whenever
Yeah.
is whenever.
One day when the glory comes, right?
One day.
I don't know if anybody caught that reference to the Common song if you're a hip hop fan, but anyway, I mean, I'm happy that we could talk like this because I knew you before you had baby, and I see the change in you as well. So and that's why I invited you on this podcast today because my relationships focus is about all of life. I think all like how we're doing relationships, and so I like to touch on every aspect that I can. Being a parent is something that's close to me personally, and so I haven't done a ton of podcasts on it, but more specifically, you have a podcast of your own that has to do with parenting as well, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's called MOM-ENTS, and the podcast is talking to mothers that are creatives. It's mothers, but a mother isn't just a female, in my opinion. It's not just a woman, but we'll get there later. But yeah, so it's talking to creative mothers, and you know how hard it is to be a parent and also have your dreams and go for that, right? So it's really talking about that, talking about life and how someone changes and how they stick to their art and how they bring that to their children. And it's a lifestyle, right? It's not just, you're not just like, you don't have a work schedule relationship to your art or your creativity. It's all the time, as Aaron Scott says in the thing. So, and I believe that. So, yeah.
That's Aaron from Inspired Word Cafe.
Yeah.
They've been working hard in that art scene for a while here. So that's great that you guys are connected. So I
drew a lot of inspiration from her when I was in school and pregnant, because everybody was telling me of her story when she was in school and pregnant and how she was doing it. So the professors were like cheering me on.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So that's the focus, is creative moms?
For right now, yes. But that is a focus, like creative mothers who are just doing their thing. And it's also for just people who don't have children, because when you don't have a child, it's really hard to understand what it's like when you do. Like everything really shifts. So having that conversation and the perspective of how people are doing and what the reality is like. As I said, having a child really grounded me. And I was like, why did nobody tell me parenting was like this? Like I went from wanting 12 to 1 only, you know? So yeah.
I saw a meme the other day that said people who say they have baby fever, go take a nap and then wake up. When you wake up and you feel refreshed, then remember that, because you won't want to have kids anymore. That feeling of feeling rested.
Man, feeling rested. Glory was with his grandmother for 2 weeks. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm functioning. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
That's 2 weeks. Great. 2 weeks. Yeah, straight. Yeah.
That's nice. So, can you give us a little taste of what kind of topics you cover on your podcast?
I think spirituality, how that all relates, and indigeneity, how that all relates to us, like being here. Everything we kind of ground ourselves on is being on Silk Land, and what does that mean, and how does that inform us and our creativity, and And some people are Indigenous. Well, everyone's actually Indigenous to their own spaces. Like even Aaron Scott is Scottish Gaelic, right? Like the Gaelic speaking. So it was just that kind of conversation, and then spirituality and also purpose and going deeper beyond what is life and materialistic things. So that really guides our conversation. And then also being vulnerable. I chose songs. So I write songs, and I every time I was speaking to the people, I chose a song for them specifically to sing, because I was trying to open the space that they could share the way they need to share. And so even going through that process for me of choosing the right song that I could, because they're all my friends, right? So I could feel from them and be like, I think this is what would be best. And then seeing how it unfolded. So the first one, it was about light switched off, I call it. But just basically it's about kind of that trouble you have with like men and women, how they fight in the beginning of the baby. Like I remember Trophy and we were arguing about who's tired more, you know, like I'm tired, no, I'm tired, no, I'm tired because of this, no, I'm tired because of this, right? So, but it's just like the arguments that happen because you're just tired, and then feeling that weight of being a woman and what that like roles and responsibilities look like. And then the second one was about, well, I can't remember now, you just gotta listen.
Yeah,
I hope that answered though.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. I mean, the tired thing, for one, I imagine, because you come at it from different perspectives, because I'm guessing you're not working right now, you're home with Glory, right?
No, I'm working.
Like aside from the podcast?
No, I'm actually, sorry, what, you continue.
No, because I imagine in the beginning, like you were probably home, and like it's always different for whichever parent, you know, is out of the house and using energy in that way, and then they come home and they're tired, versus the parent who's in the house and is also using energy and tired, and you just see things differently, right?
Well, our situation, like the way we did it, because in my culture, what happens is for the first couple months leading up to the pregnancy, and then after the pregnancy, you either have your mother, if you can, or someone come into your house, or you go to their house and get taken care of, right? Okay. So I was at my mother's house, right, just leading up to the delivery, and then after. So it was first off a lot of commute, and then I went back to work, I think 3 months or 2 months after. So it was just like driving, like he was coming over the bridge all the time to West Kelowna, right? And late nights, early mornings, just crazy.
Yeah, okay, wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting though that you mentioned like your culture, because that's something that you know, parenting and having babies and that in different cultures is a thing that I think probably a lot of people don't think about, especially like we're in Canada, and you know,
whatever Canada is,
right? And we don't see a lot, like visibly see a lot of different cultures sort of showing that side of things, right? I think it's not that visible, like as long as I've been in Canada, but I know that other cultures do things a little differently, right? So it's interesting that you brought that up, and I did want to ask you, because I know that you're very involved with, you know, like as I am, but you know, you guys are a different generation, which I think is beautiful. In our local scene here, we have guys like us who have been around a little longer here, that are a little older, and you know, kind of working for diversity. And then now your generation that is, you know, very much in the middle of what's happening with like the BIPOC movement, and that around, you know, everything's going on in the world, but especially in Canada and then here locally. So for people who don't know BIPOC, because I know a lot of people ask what that is, as Black and Indigenous people of color, right, is what that acronym stands for. So I wondered if your podcast is particularly like or motivated by that, or influenced by that, or like speaking to that in particular, or are you just speaking to all moms?
You know
well,
what?
You said moms you said artistic moms, so I know that, but
yeah, it's important to have representation and to have that space, and that's why BIPOC spaces are very important. However, I think this podcast is for everybody. How can I say? When you have spaces where you can just express without it necessarily being about I'm Black or I am this, where you can just be a human person saying what you want to say. And that's why, like, even Erin, for instance, right? Erin is a white woman, right? And she is Indigenous to, Scotland. And she has that culture that was erased through, the expansion of England, and they lost, it's that recovery and all of that stuff, intergenerational trauma and all that stuff. So it's really important to see beyond these. But yes, it is highlighting Black, Indigenous, and people of color's voices, but it's a very limiting box that is for me. Truly, MOM-ENTS is like, I also am kinfolk, right? As the artist collective that Trophy and Randy and everybody is in kinfolk, and kinfolk is about kindred spirit. So do our spirits align? Do we connect spiritually? Because then it really doesn't matter. It matters still, but it doesn't matter if you're Black or Indigenous. What is Black? What is African? Though that was created in Berlin or some, you know what I mean? So that's what MOM-ENTS is. But it's important for me to say that yes, I'm trying to highlight, and I am highlighting these voices, but in the future, I just,
Oh, that's cool. I mean, fair. I just want, listeners to know, and I do get the sense that your podcast is, even though it's geared to moms, or it's like the voice of moms and that sort of thing, would be helpful for many people to listen to, right? I mean, men who even are parents or thinking about parents, it'd be good for them to hear from a female perspective or from the mom's perspective as well. Maybe women who are not moms yet, who are thinking about it, right? Maybe moms who are like older moms, who are interested in what the new generation is saying, or what the experience is like. So it's great. I mean, congratulations on the podcast. And I know what it takes to start something, and I hear you got a little bit of support behind you from the artistic community. So that was really cool.
Yeah. Tell us, Story Hive. Shout out to Story Hive and Tell us, and yeah.
That's great. Back to the Black and Indigenous thing and people of color, just briefly, because I don't want to make this podcast about that, but it's come out, like, obviously we know that the movement, there's so much going on in the world right now, like in the last couple of years especially. It just feels like everything, like it's one thing after another. And I remember, like one of the, like it was suggested to me, and I think I will do a series on this podcast about the experience of people of color living in a place like where we are, like in Canada or like North America or whatever, like what it's been like to, like what our relationships have been like, right, in that sense. Because there is also the other discussion that half of people say we shouldn't see color, and the other half of the people say you can't help but see color, like it's a huge part of who we are in our experience. So anyway, obviously we don't have time to get into that today, but maybe I'll get you to come back and share a little bit about what that's been like for you, and maybe even you and Trophy together could come back on, and we can talk about that.
Definitely. I think if I just may say one thing, I think for people, the bottom line is you have to locate yourself. you have to situate and know where you are and who you are. And that is the most important thing, because until that happens, people are going to be continuing to be lost, looking, oh, this is the right way to say it. Oh, this is the right way. Think about how many ways they've called Black people. It started out with nigga, then Negro, then nigga, then African American, oh, colored, African American, oh, Black. Like, you know what I mean? But the name changes, but it stays the same. And like even for residential schools, right, which people are saying residential prison, all that is now is the foster care system. The name changed, but it stays the same. You know, there's more Indigenous children in foster care systems than in residential schools, and still being murdered, still being neglected, still being all these things. And so I think that's the main thing that I want to say is people need to self-locate. You know, and that's why I always say Canada, Kelowna, where am I? Where am I? And that's how you know yourself too. First, see where you are, and then see who you are in that. That's why I call myself a settler as well, because the immigrant is always darker, and then the settler is always lighter somehow. And they've settled, and there's just the erasure of everything is white and then dark. You know, there's white and then everything's darker, and it's you know, so I'm settling here as well. And let's not normalize this thing of, oh, I'm an uninvited guest. How long do you want to be an uninvited guest in somebody's house? You know what I mean? Like, that is just bad manners, you know? Like, let's try to get invited. And people need to take the time to put in work for that relationship building.
Yeah, it's definitely a discussion that's not going away anytime soon. I think, you know, and I look at it from my family are immigrants here, you know, like, and but I was born here, right? So it's like, and it's an interesting experience anyway. And like I said, I don't think this discussion is going to end anytime soon. I keep saying to people that, you know, whenever the decolonization topic comes up in countries, we've seen a lot of like big movements in countries and big changes in countries, like, you know, and all throughout Latin America, Africa, you know, and it's just, anyway, it's usually change people couldn't have imagined, right? So I'm glad that we're talking about this too. I think everybody needs to kind of have it on their mind, you know, and but we're gonna leave that for a second. I know we can get, you and I can get into that like deep.
I'm gonna just bite my lip.
We'll do a podcast maybe just about that. It would be cool to do like a panel thing too, even, you know, on that. And probably a couple of them. So let's table that for now. I wanted to focus today on the fact that you're a mom, a fairly new mom. You have a podcast that people could check out. So before I forget, where can people find you or find that online?
Well, the podcast will be out in September, and it'll be on Spotify and Telesoptic TV on demand. And then people can follow MOM-ENTS.podcast on Instagram and just keep up to date there.
Okay, MOM-ENTS.podcast.
Oh, yeah, you can just say like moments, right? To spell it out, it's moment. Yes,
I get it. The play on words, very tricky there.
I know, genius.
That's good. So any words that you want to offer from your experience to moms that are maybe listening to this, or dads? I would say young ones. How about that? Like ones that are just like about to experience what you've just experienced.
Like that they're pregnant or something?
Yeah, or they're thinking about it. Like, you know, what's been maybe the biggest change, and what piece of advice you might want to give, or what's been helpful for you?
What has been, oh my goodness.
Well, let's start with what's been the biggest change other than being tired.
The biggest change is having to be better with my time.
Okay.
But I have to really capitalize on time. I mean, I have to,
Yeah.
whatever productivity looks like in that moment for me. But yeah, being very cautious of how I'm spending my time and what I'm doing, who I'm engaging with, because I ain't got time, but I also got time. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I have one child, then you had, even having 1 to 2 is a huge shift, right? So I don't understand fully what it's like to have 2 children. And in that sense, I have time that I don't see, that I have to see. So I have to see what I cannot see to use. You know what I mean?
Right. It actually is cool because then they usually have someone to play with.
But in the beginning, it's not
No,
like that. You see, that's
yeah.
wrong what you're doing right there, because that's the only part they tell you, huh? Oh, have 2 because then they have somebody to play with. But y'all don't say just because one is asleep doesn't mean the other one is asleep. See, with one, when one is asleep, you're done. With 2,
that's true. That's true. Fair enough. And what about with your relationship with Trophy? What's been the biggest change?
Oh man. What's been the biggest change? Man,
Or at least
I think what has been the biggest change?
Or at least what comes to mind, because I know sometimes trying to figure out what the biggest is hard.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're just like committed. Like the drive just went like, it's just like we're going like. And so I think the biggest change is just continuing to build together. Like everything just became like, it's the future, and you're thinking of the future for not only yourself now, but together for a human, for a life, and where they're going, and what you want for them, and what you want for you, and seeing how best to parent, how our parenting styles are, our communication style for the child is, and you really see how someone was raised when they're raising a child, right?
Yes,
And
definitely.
yeah. So it's been fun. It's been interesting, crazy, but that's been the most interesting thing, how to raise a child.
Yeah, I would agree that is such a huge thing, and sometimes some big unlearning that needs to happen when we start raising a child from how we were raised, and finding that balance between, they say pendulum parenting, right? Like where my parents are this way and I didn't like it, so I'm going to go the complete opposite way, and there needs to be some balance, right?
But also sometimes the two of you create that balance.
That's true.
In an interesting way. But I feel bad for Glory, because when Trophy and I usually are on the same page, like about everything. It's like
so he can't win.
Yeah. So I'm like, damn. It's hard.
No, it's true. I mean, honestly, I still am thankful for like my, people know I'm divorced now, and my ex-wife and I, that's one area we're generally on the same page when it comes to the kids.
That's a blessing.
Certain things like values and whatever, like, so we communicate, and they usually, even if they try to manipulate, they may not admit that they're trying to manipulate, or they may not even know it, but most of the time they're not, we see it, right? And we acknowledge it. So,
and I think your children are a testament to that, because like Sade is dope. You know what I mean? Like she's dope. So I think that as a parent, you always just try to do your best, and sometimes you don't, sometimes you do, but when your children are succeeding and being blessings, I think that's always the biggest blessing. Yeah.
I'm definitely, I'm grateful for my kids all the time. I see them, and I love who they're becoming. I worry all the time. The hardest shift for me, going from having young kids that when they were young to now them being older and like growing up, like older, half of them are adults pretty much already. And is the shift from trying to form them into like kind of like the humans I want them to be, I hope that they'll be, and to like kind of let go and watch them kind of form themselves now, like kind of thing, and be like, oh gosh, please make the right choice. Like
just out there.
Yeah,
that's actually funny. The worry doesn't stop. Hey,
oh, yeah.
It doesn't stop. It's crazy because with Glory, you can't force him to do anything. Like, it's crazy. And I was like, I'm gonna try to parent differently and communicate. And so I'm on this tip of like, he's not only learning my language right now, but I'm also learning his language and also the baby language in general too. But like, I'm really trying to see like Glory's spirit in a way, like try to understand it. So hopefully that it's not going to be too tumultuous, because I'm a Gemini and he's a Pisces. So I'm like, I don't know what Gemini Pisces relationships are like, but I know I'm crazy. So I'm going to try to mitigate that as a problem for him, me as a mother,
Yeah, that's true. No, that's good. I mean, it really doesn't matter what sign you are, as long as they need to know that you're a little crazy, and they can't cross you.
Yeah, that's true. It's important.
No, it's all good. I mean, being a parent is probably the hardest job in the world, I think. So definitely you're gonna have more podcasts.
It's so deep.
On that. Yeah, it's a complicated thing. I used to run, we used to run like a lot of parenting support stuff back in the day, and mostly for young families. And anyway, just there's so much there to talk about. That's why my third book is going to be about, more about like my experience in that way.
Yes.
So I better write the second one, get on with that. So anyway, it's so great to have you on today. We're like running out of time. I just want to remind people that you can find Lady Dia on MOM-ENTS, spelled moments .podcast. Follow on social media, and soon the podcast will be launching. I mean, any ladies listening, and maybe if you want to hit them up and you think you might be interested in engaging with the podcast in some way, or maybe being a guest, I don't know how that works, but you can reach out.
Hit me up on Instagram on moments.podcast. And I would love that.
Thank you for everything today. We'll have to do it again soon. Thank you for listening.
I have to interrupt.
Sure.
I would be remiss. I would actually be probably scolded by my producers or whoever if I don't say that I have to advertise that I am now artist in residence for Kelowna. And so this summer, there's going to be a whole lot of different events going on. So check out, just stay up to date, okay? You just that's all I gotta say.
on MOM-ENTS podcast, that's where you're gonna post that stuff?
You know what? I will for people that are on here, but I'll link everything for artists in residence,
and probably Kinfolk Nation.
Oh yes, exactly. Well. You can follow Kinfolk Nation official.
For that kind of thing. We're very similar in that way. We got our multiple personalities. We got our different Instagram profiles for events and stuff. So we definitely will have to chat about that, because we're all involved in the event world and all that. So I'm always get excited. Yeah, we gotta reconnect more often, not just like this, but I was so happy to have you on today, and I want to thank everybody for listening, and make sure you follow, subscribe if you haven't yet, and share, please share. Thanks again to Lady Dia, and watch out for the next one.
Yes.
All right, bye for now.
Bye.